Most of us love a good t-shirt. I love a good t-shirt, but cotton is not your friend in cold weather. It holds moisture, so any moisture from your body, it will hold it, and that is not a good thing to have when there is wind around. It will increase your wind chill and make you even colder. My experience of cotton t-shirts is they just do not hold warmth at all. Hey adventurer, I'm Bridget Hallam from Throw Your Leg Over, and today we're talking about gear for your cold weather adventures. If you're in the Southern Hemisphere, winter is coming and it's time for us to get out all our winter gear and see what we've got and see what we need to get. And by the end of this episode, you will have a whole range of options for great gear this winter. I'm going to cover three things. First of all, why it's important that you have suitable gear for your adventures when it's cold. I'm going to talk about fabrics, which ones are good and which ones you probably want to avoid. I'm also going to talk about the gear that you can get for your adventures, from base layers all the way through to the outer layer. So next time you decide to do a little bit of gear shopping, you'll have a list of things that you might want to choose from. All right, so let's dive in. It is getting colder. The months are getting colder, and that impacts our riding. It is really important to stay warm for the very, very basic reason of comfort. Riding in cold weather, feeling cold when you're riding in cold weather can be a really miserable experience. If you're anything like me, I feel the cold really easily. And the moment that I become cold, I start enjoying the adventure less. The other important thing about keeping warm when you're riding in cold weather is it really can affect your riding. And it can affect you mentally and physically. When that cold creeps in, it can create a bit of a mental drain, and then it becomes just a bit harder to keep your focus, and your decision making can become a bit slower. And we all know that that is really not a good position to be in. Physically, oh gosh, I know that I feel quite tense sometimes when I am cold. And tension can affect how you control your bike. If your hands are really cold, they're just not as easy to move smoothly, and that affects how you're managing to control your brake and your clutch. Things just feel a bit jerkier and not as smooth. If you've got cold feet, oh God, cold feet. Yeah, for me, the hands and the feet are the first things that get cold. When you've got cold feet, that can affect your balance when you stop. If you're pulling up at some lights or you're pulling over to the side of the road, if your feet are like blocks of ice, that is going to affect how easily you can balance when you put your feet down. And if you are just one big shivering mess, which has happened to me, the fatigue can really descend on you quickly. I had an experience a couple of years ago when Alan and I were riding in Finland. We'd just gone up the west coast of Norway, which was incredible. If you ever get a chance to ride the west coast of Norway, do it. So we'd gone right up the west coast, right up to the top to Nordkap, or North Cape in English, and we had come down through Finland. Finland was a very different kettle of fish than Norway. It was quite flat, very few people. It was kind of like the straightish road ahead of you with trees on either side. Every now and then you'd see a lake or a couple of reindeer. So there wasn't much around to keep me mentally engaged. And the cold, oof, and the wet. I had boots that were not entirely waterproof. I ended up with water sloshing around one boot in particular. It was just absolutely miserable. We eventually pulled into town to find some lunch and there was only a supermarket there. There was no cafe or anything. And do you think I could find anything hot to eat in that supermarket? No. There may have been tears in the car park, let's just say that. It was miserable. It was really miserable. And so I say this with my whole heart to you. Whatever you can do to have gear that keeps you warm when the weather is cold and maybe wet, the better. If you're feeling comfortable and warm, you're going to be much more calm. You're going to be enjoying the ride much more. It's just going to change your whole vibe and less likely of the chance of tears in the car park. So it's really, really important. I'm going to run you through some fabrics that you want to gravitate towards when you are shopping. And the first one is merino wool. It will keep you really warm. It's breathable, so you're not going to get all sweaty and sticky. One of the best things is that you can wear it day after day after day, easily 3 days, maybe 4 or even 5, before it starts to get a bit stinky. And that is a great thing to have, especially if you're packing and you don't have a lot of room. Merino clothing is generally quite thin as well, so it packs down quite small. So merino is an excellent fabric. It is a bit expensive though, keep that in mind. Fleece, like a fleecy jumper, fleecy top, is a great mid-layer solution. It's just toasty warm. The wind will go through it though. It won't protect you from the wind, but if it's underneath a wind protection layer, then it will keep you nice and warm. There are some thermal gear that is made of synthetic fabrics. They are designed for moisture wicking and they can be quite good, although from personal experience, the ones that I have used do get a little bit stinky quicker. It didn't take too long actually before they started staining under my arms, which sounds a bit gross, but they were lighter colour. Oh, there's a tip for you. Buy black. I don't like to be in black from head to toe, but it certainly takes away the problem of worrying about stains. I just haven't found in my experience with the synthetic thermals that they are as durable. They don't last as long. A couple that of tops that I've had started peeling, where they get those tiny little knobbles on the fabric, which is no problem, but it just doesn't look that great, They also got a bit stinky after a couple of days when I was riding on the bike, so they're not as great as merino wool, but they are cheaper, quite a bit cheaper. Another beautiful fabric is silk. It sounds expensive, and it is expensive, but it's beautiful. Silk will keep you warm. Oh my gosh, if you have the luxury of like a silk base layer, like a silk top, for example, that would be amazing. It will keep you toasty. If you are a puffy jacket person, and I am a puffy jacket person, I like to wear a puffy jacket underneath my jacket, and I also like to wear it off the bike. Just a tip for when you're shopping for a puffy jacket. The labels will tell you how warm that particular jacket is, but a thing to check is the down, the filling. It will usually either be duck down or goose down. Goose down is warmer. So if you're looking for something sort of a mid temperature, duck down filling will be fine. If you're wanting something that is for really cold weather, then look for goose down. Fabrics that are not so great on your cold weather adventures are first and foremost cotton. Most of us love a good t-shirt. I love a good t-shirt, but cotton is not your friend in cold weather. It holds moisture, so any moisture from your body, it will hold it. And that is not a good thing to have when there is wind around. It will increase your wind chill and make you even colder. My experience of cotton t-shirts is they just do not hold warmth at all. If it's cold, I will not wear a t-shirt at all. even as a base layer with other layers over the top. I won't wear the t-shirts. I go straight to the merino because the cotton just gives me no warmth. Denim is another fabric that is not going to keep you warm. I have some denim motorcycle pants, and as soon as it gets cold, my legs are cold. If it starts raining, I get very cold. Denim is not your friend in cold weather. All right, so we've gone through why it's important. We've talked about the fabrics that are great for cold weather and the ones that you really don't want to be wearing when it's cold and maybe wet. So let's talk about layers. Layer, layer, layer. That's my big tip for cold weather. Starting off with your base layers, and this is your gear that is next to your skin. We start with thermals, so these are your thermal tops and your thermal bottoms. Thermal tops are like a, long sleeve t-shirt, I guess you could say. And again, you're looking for that fabric that is going to keep you really toasty warm. My go-to is merino. Alan's recently bought a synthetic thermal top that he really loves, so it doesn't necessarily have to be a merino. Bottoms, we're talking long johns here. Don't know what else you call them. I call them long johns. I have some merino long johns that I bought from Aldi, of all places, years ago. I've still got them. They're still great. They're very thin. They're packed down really small. They're easy to wear underneath my riding pants. They don't feel bulky. So they're your basic base layers, your top and your bottom. Also, think about your socks. Merino socks, obviously, are a great option. Sometimes you can get motorcycle socks that have an extra layer or are extra thick on the shin, so where the wind is hitting you. Glove liners. Oh, I love glove liners. So you can get those in merino or silk. I personally like the silk ones. They just feel nice, and I think they're a touch warmer than merino. Don't quote me on that, but I think they might be from my experience. So you put your glove liners on and then you put your gloves over the top. So your gloves liners are your base layer. And my absolute must-have is something that keeps my neck warm. If my neck's cold, I'm cold everywhere. I know it's different for everyone. For me, it is my neck. Most of the time I will wear a silk scarf. I have a red silk scarf, which I love for a number of reasons. I just love that it's silk and it's red and it looks glamorous and it feels fabulous and gorgeous. I love that, but it also keeps me toasty warm. Other options for keeping your neck warm might be a neck warmer, funnily enough. They come in fleece or merino or all different sorts of fabrics, or even a buff. You can get merino buffs. I would not suggest a cotton-based buff. The best thing about having a scarf or a neck warmer or a buff is that it will prevent that wind, that cutting cold wind, from hitting your neck and possibly going down the back of your jacket. I love my silk scarf. It keeps my neck toasty warm, but it is expensive. All right, so we've got our base layers. Mid layer. This is what you might wear over your base layer and underneath your actual riding gear. Most of my mid layers are for my torso, so tops. Sometimes I wear more than one merino base layer. I have been known to wear 3 at once. And I also like to wear a puffy jacket if it's really cold. So I'll have a base layer, maybe 2 base layers of the merino thermals, maybe even 3. And then my puffy jacket as my mid layer. I don't think I do anything else as a base layer. For your outer layer, obviously, your bike jacket, your bike pants, your boots, winter gloves, nice and warm winter gloves, and your helmet. So all your standard bike gear. And if your gear is waterproof, that is even better. I know waterproof gear is usually more expensive, but if you do have waterproof gear, that's great. And a hot tip, make sure you close all your vents. I know I and Alan too sometimes have been riding in cold weather and then we'll stop somewhere and we'll realize that we've got a couple of our air vents open. My helmet has two vents in it on top of my head and at the chin. So just check your helmet as well and make sure all your vents are closed. All right, so that's your base layer near your skin, your mid layer and your outer layer. I'm going to go one extra here. If it is super duper cold, these are the things you might want to think about. Obviously, check if your bike has heated grips. If it does, oh, what luxury. You might want to think about heated gloves. There are gloves that are battery powered that will keep your hands warm. The batteries only last for a limited time, like an hour and a half, 2 hours, depending on the battery. So there are positives and negatives with that, obviously. You might want to consider a heated vest. Sometimes there's heated jacket liners, the liner that goes inside your jacket. I've never had heated gear. I do fantasize about getting it one day, but I haven't as yet, so I can't tell you what my experience of those is. I know some people have heated gear that love it, but they do come with limited periods of heating depending on the battery and that kind of thing. So you kind of got to weigh up the pros and cons with those. And lastly, if you do have separate rain gear, like I have a separate rain jacket and rain pants, sometimes I'll wear that just for the wind protection. Even if it's not raining, I'll put my rain gear on simply because it gives me another layer of protection from the cold wind. One thing I will mention here is just be careful of bulkiness. Bulky layers are going to restrict your movement. When we went to Europe in 2019, I kind of went into this trip because we'd never done a big trip like this before, because I didn't really know what it was like to ride in Europe. My main concern was being cold. When it is really cold, I do layer up and I have lots of layers. I feel like a bit of a Michelin woman. Like I got so many layers on, but it does restrict my movement. Just getting onto the bike is more difficult. When I'm on the bike, it's very restrictive. And as a pillion, that's not so much of a problem, but if you're a solo rider, that can be a problem. So just keep that in mind when you are selecting gear for your winter rides. And one last hot tip from me, when you're looking at gear, when you're shopping, just have a think about when you're looking at a piece of clothing or a piece of gear, just ask yourself, can I wear this off the bike as well? Bonus points for gear that you can also wear off the bike. That is less to pack, less to worry about. Anything that does double duty is good in my book. So we've covered off on why staying warm is really important for your adventures, because you want to enjoy your adventures. You don't want to be miserable. We've talked about fabrics that are good to look for, which ones to avoid, and we've run through the base layers, the mid layers, the outer layers, and some extra tips to keep you warm when it's really cold. Now, if you want to go down the packing rabbit hole a bit more, and who doesn't love some good packing, check out episode 3. That's where I talked about packing for weekend adventures, when you just want to have a cheeky weekender away on the bike. And also episode 8, where I talk about 3 packing mistakes you want to make sure that you're not doing. So if you enjoyed this episode, I would love it if you gave me a 5-star review or shared it with one of your riding buddies. I would love to know your favorite gear when you are riding in cold weather. Send me a message, send me an email. I would love to know. And I will see you next week.